We are back with another week of the HBCU NFL Report, where we keep you guys updated on some of your favorite Black college football stars in the pros. As always, I am Symone Stanley. We are joined by Lute Williams each and every week. Lute, we have a very special edition of the HBCU NFL Report. The holidays kept us from being able to talk about the hottest topic on the block. And we also have some rumors to get into, and we have a rookie breaking records in the NFL. Seems like each and every week he's up to something. We are going to get into it all, starting with the gigantic elephant, lion, whatever you want to call it, in the room. Whoa, Big Bird, Big Raven in the room. Bethune Cookman University hired Ed Reed as their next head coach. Ed Reed, a guy you as a Steelers fan know oh so well.
Good gracious. Yeah. A bad man, Ed Reed. And
a bad man. Pro Football Hall of Famer, one of the best safeties, DBs to ever do it, is now taking over Bethune Cookman University. Lou, we talked before. You love the hire. What do you love about it?
Oh, man, it's a great hire on every level that you can imagine. You know, coming off the Deion Sanders 2.5-year trek down to Jackson State, which was ultra successful. When you start thinking about football players, black players that could come into the HBCU world the way that Deion Sanders did and make an impression, I don't think there's anyone greater or better than Ed Reed. They've talked about his former teammate with the Baltimore Ravens. We talked about Ray, what's his name?
Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis. I try to forget him.
Another bad man that you know so well.
Who caused a lot of pain for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But, you know, the names of Ray Lewis have been thrown around. The name Jerry Rice has been thrown around. We've heard the name
Cam Newton. Shoot, they wanted to bring Cam Newton.
What's Falk's? Marshall Falk. His name has been thrown around for the Southern job at a time. But when you talk about coming off of Deion Sanders, if you think about the greatest defensive backs over the last 20 plus years in the NFL, Ed Reed is right there. 64 career interceptions. The man had an uncanny ability, a fabulous football IQ. And this is the trend now with the Eddie George and the Hugh Jacksons. You know, now they want to get NFL players. How could you do what better trump card? And I don't mean a Donald Trump card, but what better trump card?
You didn't mean a Donald Trump card.
What better trump card than to bring Ed Reed, you know, who's got all kinds of roots down in the Florida area, having played in Miami. He comes into Bethune-Cookman. He's going to attract, in my opinion, he doesn't have the personality that Deion Sanders had, but he has the swag that Deion Sanders had because he was a bad man, and everybody knows it. So I think he can sell the same thing that Deion did. Come to me, and I'll show you how to make it to the league. Come to me regardless of your position. And I wouldn't be surprised. You know, when Deion took the job at Jackson State, he talked about like he was going to bring Michael Irvin in to coach the receivers. He was going to bring, you know, Emmitt Smith to coach the running backs. Well, Ed Reed can do the same thing because he has that kind of respect around the league. And with these young kids that are going to be coming into the HBCU world. So I don't think it could be a better hire. I think you said something earlier about people, what did you say? They're debating.
Well, let me say it, Lou. Dang, can I ask my question?
Go ahead.
You know, I got to set the stage a little bit.
Sure. Go right ahead.
We all agree it's a wonderful hire. And on Twitter, there were a lot of players who jumped into the portal because Bethune-Cookman was taking a little bit of time to announce their coach. You know, it's recruiting period. So some players jumped into the portal. Bethune-Cookman was holding this big surprise, like, hold on, trust the process. And it was a couple of guys that instantly took their name out the portal, like, nah, I'm withdrawing from the portal. I'm staying at Bethune-Cookman. So you can instantly see the impact he's having. But the question that I wanted to ask, I was listening to a Twitter space, HBCU Nightly, hosted by Joshua Sims. He was contributing with us on HBCU Game Day, so shout out to him for posing this hot question. Is Ed Reed a brand hire or a football hire? What are your thoughts on this, Luke?
Well, that's like asking the question, which was Deion? There were questions about him coming. Does he really want to coach? Is he just doing this for the hype and the publicity? This is a combination brand and football hire. Just like Deion, Ed Reed has been coaching. He's been working in the coaching arena. He's been working with the University of Miami, his alma mater. He has those kinds of connections already. Everybody loves Ed Reed, so certainly it's a football hire. They talk about everybody from John Harbaugh, his former coach for the Baltimore Ravens, and everybody else talks about his high football IQ. And anybody that watched him play, especially if you're a Steelers fan,
right,
you know that he employed that IQ every time and every play that he was in the game. So no, it's absolutely a football hire, but it's also a brand hire because, listen, Jackson State was almost in the same state that Bethune-Cookman was in before they hired Deion Sanders. They hadn't won in quite some time. If you read any of the stories about Bethune-Cookman hiring him, they're saying they're trying to resurrect the program. At one time, Bethune-Cookman was a perennial contender for conference honors in the MEAC. And they've moved to the SWAC, and they've kind of fallen on hard times under Terry Sims, a great coach, but has not been able to elevate the Wildcats to that championship level. So, no, I think it's absolutely a brand hire as much as a football hire. And I think we're going to see, it wouldn't surprise me if Ed Reed starts to land some of those 4- and 5-star recruits like Deion Sanders did at Jackson State. I mean, who was considering Jackson State before he came there? So thumbs up in every direction from me with the hiring of Ed Reed. I just hope they can get that contract done. That's one of the reasons they haven't officially done it. I'm sure he's probably talking to Deion on the phone and said, what were some of those incentives you had at Jackson State? Maybe we can get some of those at Bethune-Cookman. Because if he resurrects this program like Deion did at Jackson State, it'll be nothing but a boom for the SWAC, for the Bethune-Cookman, as well as for HBCU football.
So my question to you is this, Luke, because you answered it. You said it's a little bit of both, which I like. It is
Absolutely.
A little bit of both. Football hire, his football IQ, as we know, is through the roof, especially defensively. But also, he's a name. He is a brand in himself, even if he isn't as much as a celebrity as Deion Sanders was. Now,
Right.
My question, though, Luke, do you think that Ed Reed might need to step up a little bit, post a little bit more, tweet a little bit more, put a little bit stuff out there more on social media? Because we saw how huge that social media engine was at Jackson State. I personally think Bethune-Cookman needs to kind of follow, and then a lot of schools need to follow that same blueprint that Jackson State did, making their social media page a destination page and not just the game.
Well, one thing Deion Sanders said at the Celebration Bowl is that there's only one Deion Sanders. You're not going to morph into a Deion Sanders if you've not been a Deion Sanders before. Ed Reed has not had that. He's let his play do the talking, and his play speaks just as loudly as Deion Sanders, charisma, if you want to call it that. And, I looked at his stats, 64 career interceptions, 9-time All-Pro, 5-time first-team All-Pro. I think that's going to speak for itself. Now, of course, Brian Harvey is the new PR director at Bethune-Cookman, returning to Bethune-Cookman. Brian is a very savvy veteran. It would be wise for him to employ as much of that as possible. But I'm not sure they're going to need a lot of that. I mean, just the name Ed Reed, following Deion Sanders coming to Jackson State. I asked Deion whether Jackson State was going to hire somebody like an Ed Reed or Michael Vick or somebody with a name. Jackson State chose to stay in-house. I think that Reggie Theus, the AD at Bethune-Cookman, made a great decision to lure Ed Reed to come to Bethune-Cookman. That's going to be very, very, very interesting. And I believe he has the goods to turn that situation around and maybe even duplicate, because I think that the path is open. Let's think about it. I think Eddie George at Tennessee State, Hugh Jackson at Grambling, I think all of these programs are on the upswing. Nobody is going to beat Deion Sanders. I agree with him completely.
I'm not saying, when I say amp up the social media, I'm not saying go in there and broadcast all day long what you're doing, what you're eating for breakfast, your conversations in the hallways.
Right.
I'm not saying all that, but just keeping your page active, because even with Deion Sanders leaving, Jackson State's social media page can still carry on that momentum. You know what I mean? Like all those followers, all those eyeballs is money. And it wasn't just Jackson State. A lot of schools outside of HBCU world, and FAMU does a great job of this. FAMU, I believe, does a great job of keeping their social media page active and keeping it as a destination outside of the football game. The game is only once a week. Basketball games are only 2 or 3 times a week, but if you keep your page active, that's eyeballs that's remaining on you. That's opportunities to go viral and to people to see you and see the brand, see the players, NIL deals. So that's what I'm saying. I think Bethune needs to revamp their social media page with Ed Reed.
And couldn't agree with you more. That's exactly what anyone in 2023 has to do. If you're going to reach young people today, that's where they are. They are on social media. So I agree with you 100%. And like I said, Brian Harvey, I think, is the kind of veteran that will take advantage of having a personality and an entity like Ed Reed there to boost their social media presence. So I'm with you 100%.
Because whether we like it, agree with it or not, one thing that was shown is that people love entertainment.
Absolutely.
There's no denying that. So that is something that we can try to follow as much as we can, duplicate as much as we can, because the entertainment factor was definitely a huge success. But we got a lot coming up with this Ed Reed conversation. He's going to have his press conference sometime this week. We don't know exactly the day yet, but he will have his press conference this week. So the coaching staff, the recruitment, we're going to have a lot to follow on that front. But we have another NFL great, former All-Pro NFL player who might be coaching at a HBCU soon. Now, this is a rumor right now. Everything started as a rumor. It's a song. It started as a rumor, you know what I'm saying? But there could be something to this. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's North Carolina A&T. Surprise announcement after the season that Sam Washington was stepping down. Much speculation. A lot of names have been thrown out, like Jim Caldwell, the former coach not only of the Detroit Lions, is a coach of the Indianapolis Colts. He started in this area where I live, Greensboro, North Carolina. He was started at Wake Forest, his first head coaching job on the college level. His name was in the mix, but the name that has emerged is Vincent, as we used to call him, the Undertaker Brown, out of Mississippi Valley State of the SWAC. Was an outstanding player in the SWAC, had a 8 or 9 year career in the NFL, outstanding career in the NFL with the New England Patriots. And his coaching chops have been honed at Howard University under Mike London. He's now at William & Mary with Mike London as his defensive coordinator. He was a top-notch player. What I've known about him during his time at Howard, very respected around the conference. And A&T, as our colleague Stephen Gaither has reported, is nearing a deal with Vincent Brown. This will be, in fact, his first head coaching job.
Yep.
If so. And, just like you're talking about with Bethune-Cookman, a lot of this speculation about who they were going to name, a lot of the openings have now been filled that were opened once the season ended. And this is a big one. North Carolina A&T is moving to the CAA, to the conference. It's a conference that Vincent Brown is familiar with. That might be one factor in it. I haven't had a chance yet to go over to A&T and talk to AD Earl Hilton and see if this is on the right track. But according to Steve, a very reliable source gave him this information. So I wouldn't be surprised in it. And if it is, it'll be very interesting to see a new coach coming into the CAA, but I think his familiarity with that conference will maybe bode well for the Aggies. But, Aggie fans are tough. They're on edge.
Yes.
And they're going to have a lot to say no matter who they hire. But Vincent Brown, he didn't have the name Undertaker for anything. He was known to be a vicious, hard-hitting, linebacker during his days, both at Mississippi Valley and in the pros. So we'll have to see. We'll wait for that announcement. And I would assume it's coming soon because, this is signing time. Yeah, absolutely. This is a time when you got to land some of these players. And again, this would be another one following in the footsteps of having NFL experience and a guy that's, been around the horn, knows the ins and outs of what it takes to play at the next level, which may be an attractive thing in terms of, and it would be interesting because Sam Washington is a Mississippi Valley State graduate as well. So it'll be the second time maybe the Aggies have dipped into the Delta Devils pool to find a head coach. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure.
A&T, we're talking about big shoes to fill at the coaching position. Sam Washington was beloved.
Yes, he
by
was.
those Aggies. That's going to be some big. And Sam Washington he was beloved as a coach for his personality, and he's seen beloved by the players, and he was also winning. Three very hard things to do in college football. So
Absolutely.
Whoever they bring in, those are going to be some big shoes to fill.
Absolutely. And, Vincent Brown, I think, is probably up to the task. He's waited his turn. He's paid his dues. If they go in that direction, it'll be a very, very interesting hire. And as I said, one we'll certainly keep our eye on.
Now, one guy we have had our eye on for a while, Lute. We are jumping into our Week 17. I cannot believe we are at Week 17. One more week left of the regular season. And the way my team is looking, Lute, I might only have 2 more games left.
I was wondering how you feeling about how they are we getting Jalen Hurts back for this last game or not?
Lute. Jalen Hurts should have been back. Once we saw, now I understand in the Dallas game, Gardner Minshew gave false hopes to what maybe he could do against the New Orleans Saints. But the difference, in my opinion, in the Dallas game where we were able to put up 27 points on offense was that Gardner Minshew's throws were terrible. It was Dallas Goedert making plays on bad balls. It was A.J. Brown making plays on bad balls. Devontae Smith making plays on bad balls. Shoot, the game against the Saints, he couldn't even get the ball off. That's what frustrated me the most. Like, you got all these weapons. Give them an opportunity to make a play on the ball. But this is not that show. And my wounds are wide open. But, Luke, all I'm saying is Jalen Hurts needs to play on Sunday, this Sunday. We know we are not getting any more than 3 points maybe if Gardner Minshew plays. And I don't care if he's 50%, 40%, 20%. This is a win now league. We've been playing with our food for 2 weeks now. Bring the man out there. That's our only chance of doing anything. You play around and we're going to end up playing the Bucs on wild card weekend, and it's going to be a first round exit.
Yeah, so in other words, you want that top seed, that first round bye, give them another week to rest. I got you. So play them now and get it over with. Go ahead and beat the Giants so you'll be in. Yeah, well, my Steelers, I had several of my co-Steeler fans who said they turned the game off. We're doing so bad. I was like, what kind of fans are you? You watch to the end. We've won 2 games in the last minute.
Right.
We beat the Ravens this week in the last minute. We beat the previous week we won in the last minute. So we keeping hope alive with the Steelers. One more win, and Mike Tomlin will have 16 straight years of a non-losing season. And if a couple other things go right, we may even get into the playoffs. And we'll be playing probably the number 2 seed because we'll be the last team in. But I'm just proud of the way Mike Tomlin has these guys playing. I love Kenny Pickett. I think we're going to be a force to be reckoned with going forward. I love Najee Harris. I love George Pickens. I love Deontay Johnson. So I'm feeling good about the Steelers. Whether we get in or not really doesn't matter. I think Mike Tomlin has once again shown why he's one of the best coaches in the league. So
and to be playing a rookie quarterback mid-season, I mean, Pickens is amazing, but also that's credit. You got a rookie quarterback, you got a rookie wide receiver 1, and wide receiver 1 had a quarterback change mid-season, just the way that those guys developed that chemistry so quick. Y'all have a lot to look forward to, of course. I feel like the goal for y'all is, like you said, to end with the winning season, keep that streak alive for Mike Tomlin and have a lot to look forward to next year and the years to come with your young core.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we got some positive things to talk about. I got something positive to talk about from week 17 because, week 17 broke my heart. But James Houston, former Jackson State University Tiger, the problem in college has translated those problems for other teams to the pro level. He had 3 sacks versus the Chicago Bears. 3 sacks. He broke an NFL record for a rookie. But my main thing is, Luke, we keep talking about James Houston. I'm saying Dan Campbell, Detroit Lions, their defense started off the beginning of the season terrible, Luke. Their offense they put up 34 points on us week 1. Just imagine if they had James Houston out there, maybe they could have got one more stop. Like, their defense was terrible to start the season. Why wasn't James playing all season long? Now y'all have a wee bit of chance to make the playoffs, but it's like, shoot, why y'all even in this position?
Yeah, and I said in the preseason, I heard some criticism about some things that James Houston needed to work on. They didn't give him an opportunity. For 11 games, he didn't get an opportunity. And then you put him in, and in 6 games, he's got 8 sacks. He becomes and gets into the NFL record book, the first player to have 8 sacks in their first 6 games in the league. He has more sacks than their number 1 choice. And we said this even a couple of weeks ago when he was on the heels. Now he's past Adnan Hutchinson. How do you pronounce his name?
Don't be disrespectful.
Out of Michigan, who only has 7.5 sacks in 16 games. My man has 8 sacks in 6 games. He's, I think, 20-something in the league, tied with a couple of veterans in the league. He's playing lights out. One of the things I like, they're saying that one of the moves he's been making in getting these sacks is he gives you what they're calling it a Euro step in football, which means he's going left, then he goes right. He goes left slow and he goes back quick right and gets around these big offensive tackles that he's been making these sacks on. And he's gotten 8 of them, 3 of them, as you said, this past Sunday against Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. And, some people could call it a crossover, the crossover, or it could be the Euro step. But either way, he's using his speed and his explosiveness. And what we tried to do on the stories on HBCU Game Day, we tried to give you the videos to show how he's getting around these guys. And he is getting around them at will. And the funny part of it is he's not making a lot of tackles in the defense other than becoming a specialist in terms of a pass rusher. He'll probably work one of the sacks he got this week against Justin Fields. He dropped in the coverage. Fields rolled to his left, and he shot out of a cannon and went and took him down for one of his 3 sacks. So, no, James Houston, what we've learned this year is that coming off a year where no one from the HBCU ranks was drafted, we've had Kobe Durant lead the Rams in interceptions over Jalen Ramsey, having 2 in 1 game. We've had Joshua Williams playing, the first guy coming off the HBCU draft boards in 2022, playing big minutes for the Kansas City Chiefs. And now we have James Houston this last quarter of the season, really almost outstripping the others in terms of getting into the NFL record books in just his first season. So I'd say it's been an outstanding year for HBCU rookies. Particularly the ones that were drafted. The other guys have not gotten a chance, like Marquise Bell and a few others have not gotten on the field as much. But the ones that have, certainly Durant, James Houston, and Joshua Williams have really played lights out. That means, actually, what that means is that those NFL teams are going to be looking even more closely at the HBCU ranks to get some gems coming out of this year's draft. So we have to keep our eye on that.
Yeah, this draft is going to be exciting. We keep talking about needing some more offensive players in the NFL from HBCUs, and we could have a big ticket one in Shaq Davis, possibly out of South Carolina State University, declared for the draft. We're going to actually talk to him this week, should be this week, on HBCU Game Day about how he is preparing for the draft. So a lot of excitement when it comes to HBCU players in the NFL. Now, speaking of offensive players, Luke, Week 17, James Houston stamped Defensive Player of the Week. Offensive Player of the Week, who stood out?
Nick Leverett is the guy who has continued to step forward. He only started maybe halfway through the season. This is a product out of North Carolina Central. He actually spent his last year playing down at Rice University, but he played 3 years at North Carolina Central. He's been starting as Tom Brady and the Bucs have started to play better. They were having problems.
At the worst time for me, Luke, because that could be my wild card weekend.
I got you. But he's been playing well. We got to give him credit. He's been playing, not just playing, but he's been playing all offensive snaps over the last 4 or 5 weeks. So he's kind of making himself a mainstay of the offensive line for the Bucs. Good for him. Kudos to him. Played very well at North Carolina Central, was an all-MEAC player, decided his senior year to use that fifth-year senior to go down to Rice. So he got some FBS experience playing for the Rice Owls. But after sitting the bench for really almost a year and a half for the Bucs, he's now playing and he's a regular. And I think he's probably cemented his position on that line for the Tampa Bay Bucs. So kudos to Nick Leverett.
When it's something like hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That saying. Mm-hmm. There could be a scenario where my team is playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the wild card weekend, and then we could have a little MEAC matchup. I see a little Javon Hargrave on one end, maybe Nick Leverett on the other end. I'm going to be going with my man, hopefully Javon, if it comes down to that. But Lord willing, the creek don't rise, it won't come down to that.
You're hoping for sure. Yeah, you don't want to see Tom Brady in the playoffs, especially after he threw those 3 touchdowns this past week.
All right, Lou. They haven't been playing nobody lately.
You don't want to. Well, yeah, they had to come back on the Panthers, but they did pull out a win. But I'm looking forward to the Eagles. Have not looked like themselves the last couple of weeks, so they need to get Jalen Hurts back in there. And I'll pray for you that they'll get him back in and give you a week to kind of settle yourself as they if they get the first round bye.
Let's get to the special teams player of the week.
Who did I even pick this week? I think it was Kadero Hodge. He didn't even have a special teams tackle, but he did have a catch for the Falcons.
Okay.
They got a 20-19 win. The only other kid that we considered that had some numbers this week was Jamie Gillan, the guy who's been our perennial, or every week has been our special teams player. He only had 1 punt for the Giants in the game. So I gave it to Kadero Hodge, who's having a decent season for the Atlanta Falcons this year, the Prairie View product.
Well, hopefully Jamie Gillan is the player of the week next week, because that means he was doing a lot of punting, which means we got a lot of stops. So, Jamie, I'm rooting for you as a special teams player of the week, week 18. If he does not make it, then that's not good for my team.
I hear you. Right. If he only punts a couple of times, it might be bad for the Eagles.
Yeah, it's going to be scary hours.
Good luck to you, girl.
But, Luke, week 18 is a big time for both of our teams. The Eagles fighting for this number 1 seed, fighting for a bye week. Your Pittsburgh Steelers fighting to keep the great Mike Tomlin's winning record streak alive and hopefully a chance at the playoffs. So, we'll see next Tuesday. Are these faces going to be smiling, frowning, 1 smile, 1 frown, 2 frowns?
We'll see. We'll see. We got to take care of the Browns, so we're looking forward to it. I'm sure Mike Tomlin's going to have my Steelers fired up. Looking forward. Love them Steelers.
Well, we're going to see. Here you go. And fly, Eagles, fly. Guys, we are rolling to the last week of the HBCU NFL report for the regular season, but that does not mean Luke and myself are going anywhere. We are going to continue to bring you guys great coverage from some of your favorite Black college football stars in the pros. But for week 17, I am Symone Stanley. He is Lute Williams. This is HBCU Game Day. Thank you guys so much for joining us.